we have two identities. One is culture, another is religion. And what in Bangladesh we have been trying was to build up a blend of that. We call it syncretic Bengali nationalism, meaning that we include everybody.
You're watching The Gist on Strat News Global. I'm Ramananda Sengupta. Joining us today is Ambassador Humayun Kabir, one of Bangladesh's finest diplomats, who has served as the country's ambassador to the US, High Commissioner to Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji, as well as ambassador to Nepal, Deputy High Commissioner in Kolkata, and various other missions abroad. He's also held several senior positions at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, including DG for South Asia and the SAARC, for Europe, and the UN. A freedom fighter during the Liberation War of 1971, Ambassador Kabir began his professional career as a lecturer at the Department of Political Science, University of Dhaka, and he's a fluent speaker in English, French, Hindi, and Nepali. So I don't know whether to say Kosta Chaudhaju or whether to say thank you so much for joining us, sir. It's a delight to have you with us.
My pleasure, and thank you very much for looping me in into your video discussion.
So, the reason why we are having this discussion is that Bangladesh has just marked 1 year since, um, what they call the birth of Bangladesh 2.0. And everybody says that the main issue that led to Sheikh Hasina's ouster was, of a 15-year rule, was, autocracy. But a year after her sort of exit, could you sort of what kind of clues are you seeing? What kind of system is going to replace it?
Well, thank you very much. You have, yes, rightly pointed out that Sheikh Hasina was elected through the election of 2008, and her party got two-thirds majority. So it was a kind of, I would say, a democratic exercise through which she came to power. Subsequently, what she has done was, I don't think that was right. And three elections, subsequent elections were held, not held, I would say it was managed by the government or badly managed by the government. And in the process, the corruption thrived, flight of capital took place, the use of government machineries to suppress any dissent, for example, there was uh, egregious violation of. So all these things create a situation where people are very unhappy. They wanted to get rid of the Hasina government, and then the youth particularly came. They took the leadership. People joined them, and on 5th August last year, she was thrown away, and she fled to India. So 1 year after that, where do we stand at this time? Today, on 8th of August, the interim government under Professor Yunus took oath last year. And I must also remind our listeners that, our viewers, that it was a very difficult situation. I continue in Bangladesh practically for my entire life, except diplomatic assignments that I had to do outside. I would say that after our independence in 1971, this was the most, I would say, widespread, most violent kind of uprising, popular uprising that we have seen. So, as a consequence of that, you can see that new government came against a huge challenge. The entire structures, either police structures, civil service structure, judicial structure, entire state structure basically eliminated. I can give you one example. 639 police stations in Bangladesh. Out of 639, more than 400 police stations were destroyed, they were attacked, police were killed, police also had killed people for that. So, I mean, you can understand when more than 400 police stations were ransacked, destroyed, what kind of situation it was. And like the civil service was politicized when Sheikh Hasina was gone, and they were basically standing without any ground. The judiciary, same thing. I mean, the entire judicial was politicized, and when she went, I mean, they were in a vacuum. So, for the new government, and they have to rebuild the entire structure, entire governance structure, if I may put it. So, against that, we have to make a judgment about what they have been able to do. Couple of things I should highlight. Number one is economy was in a very bad shape. It was during hard time because there was a huge flight of banking system was completely ripped off, and there was no employment, no private investment, any foreign investment. So in that kind of situation, when economy was almost at the verge of collapse, that the interim government came to power. They have somehow, I should say, after 1 year, they have brought it back. I wouldn't say it's very good in a very good situation, nor our economist friends are telling us anything different. But the economy has been brought back to its feet. Now it's improving gradually. For example, uh, during this year, the export has picked up, remittance has grown, inflation has come down. So, I mean, basic indicators of economies are uh, coming back to normal position. So that was one, I would say, positive area where the interim government has done during the last 1 year. The second point where they have made uh, is uh, they could invite the UN Human Rights Commission to come and investigate violations of human rights that took place in Bangladesh. And they came, they studied, and after that, this year, they came out with fact finding. That was one good document because it cataloged all the violations, the different types of violation took place, who was responsible for them, they identified them as well. So I think that identifying the elements of the violations of human rights during the tenure of the last government as a documentation point of view, this has a value and it has, I would say, that I can say that it was one of the positive achievement of the government. Third thing is that, as we know already, I mean, people are impatient now. They are saying, yeah, we are hearing about the reforms, but where are they? How much they have progressed? Having said that, the fact remains that by last week, most of the political parties they have agreed on some basic elements of constitutional amendments. Those amendments are basically geared to preventing further rise of autocracy. They have agreed on some of the administrative police reforms, for example. So I think the basic structures of reform have been put in place. The government has appointed around 50 commissions. Now, the consensus commission, as we call it, which is now organizing, collating all the recommendations, and they will come up with a kind of they call it charter, July charter, meaning that sorry, recording all the agreed points, and this should be a kind of guideline for the future government. So this is I would say this is a very important element as a guideline for the future. Uh, 2 days back, 5th of Chief Advisor has announced a July declaration, meaning that he has now come up, his government has come up with a kind of record of what has happened since 1971. 2021 to last July. So it means that now the July revolution or uprising, whichever way we call it, it has it is going to get a official recognition, government recognition. So that's one, to satisfy the younger generations who took the leadership. But they are not happy. They wanted more into it. But I think the government had to satisfy all political parties of different persuasions. They followed the lowest denominator for announcing their July declaration. The July charter is coming up soon. That's my understanding. If that comes up, I think that would be a kind of guideline for the future governance in Bangladesh, where we are looking at sustainable democratic governance, sustainable democratic governance and inclusive governance, so that the basic democratic principles are followed, and then Bangladesh can move forward so that it doesn't go back to the earlier autocratic regime in the future. So these are some of the broad areas of success, if I may say so.
So, but I'm glad you brought all these things up because it's not easy to sort of reconstruct a country almost from what I'm hearing from you, from the bottom up with all the institutions and everything. But I was just reading a column in one of the Bangladeshi newspapers, which I think I'll just quote from there. It says, despite attempting many initiatives, the new administration's priorities have often seemed misaligned with public expectations. And worse, its communication failures have left many unaware of what, if anything, is being achieved. Only a handful of advisors appear visibly engaged. The rest remain anonymous and uninspiring. I think it was in the Daily Star. How far would you agree with that?
Well, I would largely agree with that, because you know this government is acting like any other government, but we have to understand the context or aspiration or expectation against which this government has taken authority, taken power. So that is another one challenge that this government is struggling all the time. People thought that during the last government, during the last government, we were treated badly. Now we want to be treated well. I mean, people. Suddenly the people's aspirations has skyrocketed, and against that, this government is trying to manage things as much as they could. As I said, they don't have basically structure. The police doesn't work, civil service doesn't work, judiciary is also in problem, media is still in trouble, public expectation is high, and but also people engage wherever they think they engage in a kind of violence, get into a group and then pursue their objective. So I would say that government has a big challenge, and for any government, this would be, I can already tell you that. Where I think the government could have done better, as you have rightly pointed out, or Dhaka Daily Star has rightly noted, this government could have been more communicative with the people, because there's a high aspiration, high expectation. Against that, this government needs to tell the people on a regular basis, this is what we are doing, this much we have been able to achieve, this much remains to be done. So, in a kind of conversation with the people, that would have been much better to understand the government. And there I must say there is still a lacuna, because the government communication strategy is not good. The press secretary, the chief advisor, I mean, he talks. I think it would have been better if somebody else could have communicated with the people so that they understand. This is the government is essentially depending on the goodwill of the people. Oh, it's not elected government. So it is more dependent on popular. So it's extremely important from the point of view that it remains constantly in communication with the government about their intention, progress, success, failures, so that people can think, well, we know where they are. But there, I think, is a missing. And daily stars are in pieces, right? And I largely agree with that.
Mhm. So one of the assumptions or presumptions that seem to be floating around a lot is that law and order and the judicial system have been particularly hit during this changeover. How valid is that charge?
Oh, judiciary, of course, as I say, all institutions, all institutions, banks, judiciary, civil administration, police, all institutions were politicized, abused, and now they don't have legs. Many of them don't have the legs. So this is a very delicate kind. So before we accuse them, I mean, better also to note that these institutions are struggling themselves, and these are all service providing institutions. So how they can provide service when they are in trouble themselves? So this is I mean, I would say difficult and delicate situation. Within that, I think whatever we could achieve, or whatever we could do, they are trying. But I would say yes, public expectation is much higher. They want quicker results. They want everything to be in good shape. and, but it's not.
Mhm. So, reconstructing all these systems and, things will take time. It's not something that can be done overnight. But there have been allegations that, part of it involved the witch hunt against the Awami League people, which is only natural. I mean, given that after 15 years of oppression, one would expect that. But coming to, let's say, the relationship with India, which seems to have taken a bit of a nosedive, is Delhi granting shelter to Sheikh Hasina the only major sticking point, or are there long spending sort of, you know, resentment which has been brewing for a while? I ask because, we do have issues like the Tista waters and we do have other issues involved. And also, I'll be honest here, that, I mean, I was in Bangladesh for a SARC summit long ago when the BNP was in power. And I did have people telling me that was quite a while ago, but I did have people telling me that, oh, I wish that we stayed on with Pakistan, then India wouldn't have been able to bully us. So is there that long-standing sort of resentment still pending, or is it only this Sheikh Hasina and the Tista waters which are sort of causes for?
Thank you. I will respond to your question in 3 seconds. The first one is India is my sense, personal view, and many share that view. India has failed to understand and appreciate the huge shift that has taken place, or I would say mass uprising. What was the cause and consequence of that? India somehow failed to appreciate that. And that was the first point. So when people, and here I must also give you a little bit of backdrop. During the last three elections, when the last government was manipulating the election, Indians didn't say anything. So a public perception grew that India was supporting or at least acquiescing to what was going on. And that didn't go well. So that was the, I would say, primary or first point. Then secondly, when this new government came to power, since 5th of uh, India has actually all connections. Visa stopped, transport communication stopped, the border business. We are getting Indian products, but Bangladeshi products going to India have been stopped as late as, I mean, after the summit meeting at the BIMSTEC summit in Bangkok between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chief Advisor Professor Yunus, India first suspended the transshipment facility to India, and then thereafter they suspended overnight trade between Bangladesh and India. So that people got a bad smell, or they thought that, well, I mean, uh, India is not helping us, trying to difficulty for us. The third component that you have is after the uprising, a massive disinformation campaign was observed or launched, I would say. We Bangladeshis felt that we have become a victim of massive disinformation campaign. And the criminal issue is unnecessarily over, I mean, I would say, inflated, meaning that the impression people around the world was given the impression that Bangladesh has become a communally intolerant country and minorities are in trouble and so on and so forth. The fact is that you have to understand that the change that took place was huge political change. 15 years after a government was changed, and there was a huge political backlash, if I may say so. And in the process, many people were affected, but I would say much less than what one would have anticipated. And particularly on the minority issue, we understood that some of the minority could be affected. Madrasa students, government, army, students, civil society people, all got all stood guard to protect the minorities and ethnic communities. So that was one thing, and I can tell you that I'm noticing a kind of new sense of responsibility among the Bangladeshis that if we want to project ourselves as a decent country, as a democratic country, first thing that we have to do is to protect the interests of the minority. So that sense, I would say, is not in the government, it's society, various stakeholders of the societies are also uh, uh, have taken this issue as a serious responsibility. So to me, yes, there have been some incidences, but that was at the beginning, just after or around the time of changeover in Bangladesh. But thereafter, I think things are pretty okay now, and we have not heard even in the press or nowhere that communities or ethnic groups are being abused. But well, I would say that this is a again, as I say, it's extremely fluid situation from a point of view. Also. So if one or two things happen, I would take it in a little bit of good grace. And here I must also add, it is not the minority. Majority community also been affected in certain places. The mazars or shrines were ransacked. Some of the Muslim community sects were kind of attacked and so on and so forth. So this is a serious kind of transformation going on in Bangladesh, and in that process, some incidences I would say may have happened, but everybody is conscious that this should not continue. As far as possible, we should come together and build up a society. So that's what the spirit in Bangladesh is at this time.
So, I was telling you that I had been to Bangladesh a long time ago when the BNP was in power, and I had dinner with a BNP member of parliament who, in fact, gave me a very nice picture, which I still have a framed painting. And I was very impressed by the fact that he said that that even though we might have problems with India now because of other issues, uh, our country was born on the basis of language. It wasn't a religious thing. We don't wear our religion on our sleeve, and we are, he was virulently anti-Jamaat and things like that, even though he was BNP. So now there are concerns that, the Jamaat activists have been released from jail. There are actually convicted sort of terrorists who have been released from jail. How valid, or I mean, you're a freedom fighter yourself. Are you comfortable with that, sir? If that is indeed the case?
Well, let me give you a couple of points to explain what you have said or respond to what you have said. You have to look at the larger picture, not the small things. If I may add here, look at the spirit or the slogans or the dreams of the younger generation. They wanted democratic governance. They wanted a discrimination-free society. They want justice. They want a human state. So all these ideas with which this revolution or uprising, whatever you call it, was steered under those big dreams or those ideas. And nowhere there is idea of communalism or stuff like that. So that's point number one. So the whole change was pushed by these ideas which are, in my view, secular. Second point is, look at the political combination now or configuration now. Zamaat and BNP. I mean, Awami League has been talking about these for decades. BNP Zamaat, BNP Zamaat. Look at the configuration now. These two parties are now not only separate, they are now almost contested or competing with each other. So it means, and you see that in the press as well. So it means that, I mean, if anybody is propagating any religious views, well, there are many. There are many who are doing. I mean, that's a part of our identity. We have two identities. One is culture, another is religion. And what in Bangladesh we have been trying was to build up a blend of that. We call it syncretic Bengali nationalism, meaning that we include everybody, and based on that, we have moved forward. So there are religious parties, they are propagating or they are preaching their ideologies, but I can tell you the young generation who led the last movement, the BNP, for example, on the other side, there is a huge population who believes that Bangladesh should be a secular state. Secular in the sense that, or now we are defining it in terms of multiple, I mean, how can I say that? Multiple identity or multiple city. For example, the declaration yesterday or on 5th, what Professor Yunus has read out, that very clearly says talks about our what happened during our liberation war and stuff like that. So, I mean, if you look at the broad picture, Bangladesh has remained at it was, and now we are moving in the right direction because we understand that we have to move with the world, we have to stay connected to countries, and we understand what sells, what does not sell. So I would not be unnecessarily worried about. I know there is a constituency in India who would like to see a particular party or particular stream of ideas being overemphasized, but I would say keep trust on Bangladeshi people. I mean, we know what we are doing. We have been able to dislodge a kind of an autocratic government. So we will not lose our way. We know exactly what we want to do.
So, I mean, we're almost running out of time, but that brings me to the question that has always bothered me as a journalist. How much impact has disinformation by the rabid elements on both sides contributed to this sort of whatever friction there is between India and Bangladesh? Because I notice a lot of disinformation coming from both sides.
I wouldn't say from our side because we don't have that capacity much. But from Indian side, I must say there was quite a bit of it. And secondly, I should say that you have mentioned passingly at one point the the presence of the head of the previous prime minister, Awami League leaders, and others, India, and their activities. I saw today's newspaper that they have opened an office in Kolkata. So I don't believe that these are positive things and that can contribute to bring both the countries together. Because one thing I think the starting point of resetting our relationship would be to acknowledge that there is a different consciousness in Bangladesh. People want to be in touch or do business with India, but the earlier format would not work. We have to think in a different way based on what Professor Yunus has said, based on equality and dignity. So, I mean, if India treats Bangladesh with equality and dignity, I think things could come back to normal. But we believe that India is a larger neighbor. India has a larger responsibility also. And from our side, I think Bangladesh government, as I understand, they're ready to engage if they get a kind of positive note from the Indian side. And I must finish by saying that regardless of the fact that we have political tension or tension at the political level, the trade between two countries are running somewhere or other. The electricity is flowing. We are paying the Indians of electricity from Nepal or something, because these are the realities that we are connected with each other through. So I believe that we are neighbors. We have our interdependence, We have our commonalities and challenges. So let us talk and then work them out together for our mutual benefit.
That's on that particular note, I'm afraid we have run out of time, so we'll have to sort of bring this interview to a close. I'm very confident that Bangladesh will do what it believes is right for the country itself. I don't think it needs advice from anybody else or interference from anybody else to do what it needs to do, and that's how it should be. So, thank you so very much, sir, for putting all this into perspective. I appreciate your taking time out, and I look forward to having you with us again.
Oh, thank you.
In India again, ভালো বাঙালি খাবার খাবো.
Most welcome. I would like to invite you to come to Dhaka and enjoy hill.
That is Ambassador Humayun Kabir, one of Bangladesh's finest diplomats, helping us understand what has changed in Bangladesh over the last year since the new regime came into power, and putting the India-Bangladesh relationship back into perspective. I do hope you enjoyed this particular edition of The Gist, and I look forward to seeing you again. This is Ramananda Sengupta.